who is the Riddler? Is he Edward Nygma or Edward Nashton, a wisecracking egomaniac or a psychopathic killer? And how does Paul Dano's version of the character compare to the rest? Keep watching for the answers to all these riddles and more. Even casual Batman fans know the Riddler's real name, Edward Nygma. It's a pretty obvious pun. Enigma sounds like the word enigma, referencing the mysteries and puzzles that the Riddler loves to incorporate into his crimes. Some viewers may be surprised then that he has a slightly different alias in the Batman, going instead by the less familiar Edward Nashton. That name wasn't invented for the movie though. In DC Comics, it's the Riddler's real name, at least it was for 25 years. Between 1986 and 2011, the period known in DC continuity as New Earth, Nashton was Riddler's canonical name, though he did change it to Nygma as part of his criminal ambitions. After the events of Flashpoint, however, New Earth gave way to the New 52 and Prime Earth, and the Riddler's real name reverted back to Edward Nygma, but with a Y this time. Live-action iterations of the character in the past have used the surname Nygma with both spellings, including those found in Batman Forever and the TV series Gotham. While recognizable, it's fair to say that this name is kinda campy too. Such an on-the-nose reference to the character's obsessions doesn't really fit with the tone or aesthetics of the Batman. As a result, Matt Reeves' movie has given a live-action iteration of the character the name Edward Nashton for the very first time. The most famous orphan in Gotham City is undoubtedly Bruce Wayne, a child of wealthy socialites whose tragic deaths were no secret to the population at large. In the Batman's version of the tale, Bruce became something of a recluse following the deaths of his parents. At least that's the way the public saw it. In truth, he was biding his time and completing his training to emerge as the Dark Knight. Still, Bruce rarely shows his face in public. The Batman's Riddler has a bone to pick with Bruce in particular, mostly because of the sins of his father, Thomas Wayne, who purportedly associated with the mob. However, in a notable change from most other versions of the character, this Riddler is jealous of Bruce, the famous orphan, the one who didn't have to live in squalor in a decrepit Wayne orphanage. That was the harsh childhood the Riddler endured, never receiving the proper care or attention that displaced children deserve. Instead, he grew to resent the city and the people that took from him and others like him. Little did the corrupt Gotham leadership realize that their greed would give birth to their future demise. The Riddler is typically portrayed as an egomaniac with a morbid funny bone who always fancies himself the smartest man in the room. Being of superior intellect, he can't help but laugh and mock those beneath him, which is just about everyone. Both the Frank Gorshin and Jim Carrey versions of the character find humor in their own hijinks. They're outlandish and cartoony villains who crack jokes, make puns, and belittle their opposition with sarcastic wit.
Caffeine will kill ya!
The Batman, on the other hand, presents a Riddler absolutely devoid of any such humor, displaying a kind of subtle rage instead. Like many Batman villains, he's a dark reflection of the Dark Knight. They both exact vengeance on the wicked, they both wear masks, and they both want criminals to fear them. Their intellects are comparable too, but this Riddler isn't nearly as fixated on his own superiority. Where previous incarnations were mischievous and colorful, this Riddler is dark and terrifying. A psychopathic stalker who horrifically bludgeons his victims in the shadows of their own homes. He still deals in puzzles, sure, but Paul Dano's performance creates a striking portrait of an unhinged man, unleashing his own brand of righteous fury upon Gotham City. The Riddler of the Batman would fit comfortably in a slasher movie, and unlike his predecessors, he has precious little to laugh about. The Riddler's plots are pretty much always foiled by Batman. Sure, he's killed many people over the years and has enacted plenty of destructive schemes, but it's rare for any villain to actually succeed in wreaking real devastation on Gotham. In the third act of The Batman, however, the Riddler actually succeeds in his grand plan, unleashing a flood to cleanse the city of its filth. Batman is still something of an amateur at this point, and this is very much a movie in which Batman makes mistakes, including failing to deduce the Riddler's final plan in time. The film's true resolution is Batman's acknowledgement that he must be more for the people of Gotham than a vigilante pounding baddies into the pavement every night. Instead, he must be a symbol of hope. When Batman is seen providing aid and relief to victims of the flooding on the news in Arkham, the Riddler is angered. The last thing he wanted to do was bring a sense of unity to the people of Gotham and bolster a new champion for the people. Still, Riddler did at least win the battle, even if he won't win the war. In the colorful pages of DC Comics, the Riddler is often as pompous as they come. He would never happily share the spotlight as he simply craves it too much. The Riddler is destined to be a one-man show, and he'll live out the rest of his days trying to one-up and defeat Batman, if it's the last thing he does. Despite the Riddler's comic book predilection for hoarding all the notoriety, Paul Dano's take on the character is noticeably different. While the Riddler obviously prides himself on his capability to toy with law enforcement, he ultimately has one objective in mind: justice in the face of corruption. As such, the Riddler finds a sense of kinship with the Dark Knight, seemingly a crusader for justice just like him. Later in the film, the Batman reveals that the Riddler's messages for the Batman weren't a taunting game. They were an invitation to join forces. For most of the film, the Riddler believes the Batman is actually on his side, simply because their goals seem to align.
They'll remember me now. They'll remember both of us.
It's only when the Riddler is locked up that he realizes the Batman was never actually aiding his cause. The Riddler's aggression is typically levied against the weak and powerful alike. His primary objective is to elevate himself as a notoriously brainy criminal and to exert dominion over all, especially Batman. That's simply the nature of the game for an extreme narcissist like the Riddler, and the previous live-action versions of the character all fit the mold of a power-hungry megalomaniac bent on destroying Batman. It's extremely rare, then, to see the Riddler portrayed as an anti-hero of sorts. There are a couple of exceptions. The 2013 video game Batman Arkham Origins includes an early career Edward Nygma who has hidden extortion data all throughout the city in an attempt to highlight Gotham's deep rot. Also, like in The Batman, the version of the character from Batman Earth 1 is also a serial killer waging war on the corrupt. These are the only instances in recent memory in which the Riddler flirts with anti-hero status, however, until The Batman, which clearly counted Earth 1 among its inspirations. The Riddler's war is seemingly a righteous one in his own eyes. He wants nothing more than to see the evil and greedy elite of Gotham suffer and pay for their injustices. It's a Riddler we haven't seen before in live action, and it adds a whole other layer to this deeply tortured character. The Riddler is probably kidding himself when he says he's not mentally unstable like the rest of Batman's rivals. After all, a certain degree of obsession must be involved for him to commit to a never-ending conflict with a man dressed like a bat. But killing isn't a highlight of the Riddler's career, it's merely a means to an end. Typically, the puzzle-spinning crook finds joy in outwitting others, especially a prominent and intelligent figure like the Batman. Dano's Riddler certainly has a few screws loose, but that's the result of a lifetime of neglect, living as an outcast in a cruel city like Gotham. In The Batman, the Riddler seems to be the exact opposite of his comic book counterpart. The riddles are a means to an end, not the end themselves. This Riddler isn't seeking to outsmart anyone. He derives joy not from a feeling of superiority, but from the satisfaction of knowing he's about to end someone who's done the city dirty. He also savors his kills. The introductory scene in which the Riddler stalks the mayor in his own home is chilling, but he doesn't kill his target immediately, even though he has the chance. The mayor's family is out trick-or-treating and no one else is around, yet the Riddler remains in the shadows, apparently enjoying the moment as much as possible. It's a long, long way from this guy.
Adios, amigos. See you in court.
The Batman paints a bleak and quite original picture of Edward Nashton's history. Nashton's troubles began growing up in Wayne Manor, repurposed to be an orphanage, and seeing both the building and the lives of his fellow orphans fall into disrepair. When the funding dried up thanks to Gotham's greed, the orphans were forced to live in squalor. Fortunately, Edward developed his signature coping mechanism early on. Even as a child, he fixated on solving puzzles. The hobby helped him to bide his time and turn his focus away from his tragic life. Nashton's penchant for enigmas served him later in life when he became a forensic accountant, a career choice that led directly to him taking up arms against the corrupt. The skills he gained enabled him to piece together the theft of Thomas Wayne's renewal fund, which was ripe for the picking after Wayne's untimely death. That was the moment Nashton realized he owed his dark past to Gotham's shady elite and vowed to bring them down. Every villain needs henchmen. There's no way men like the Riddler could contend with Batman physically on their own, as the Dark Knight is far too great of a physical force to be reckoned with. Loyal goons are essential to making a splash in Gotham City, and most of the time, villains already have them at hand when the story begins. We're usually left to infer that the henchmen are either well paid, terrified, or both. And while that's probably a reasonable assumption, the Batman does things a little differently. The Batman finds the Riddler living in the modern age of social media, attracting hundreds of followers throughout Gotham via online ramblings about his crusade.
Thanks for all the comments, and a special thanks to everyone for the tips on detonators.
Essentially, the Batman's Riddler radicalizes and recruits followers for his war against Gotham's elite. Those like-minded individuals who have also been victims of corruption show up en masse to help assassinate the newly elected mayor, Bella Real, and terrorize the people of the city. It's an impressively modern twist on villainy in an age of widespread online interaction. The Riddler often has a distinct design that's instantly recognizable to most comic book fans. Outfitted with sunglasses or a black or green domino mask, he always comes off as something of a fashionista, donning a green bowler hat and a green suit adorned in question marks. There have been several variations on that theme over the years, including Jim Carrey's eccentric showstopper in 1995's Batman Forever. But the Riddler's appearance has typically been as distinct as it is familiar. In contrast, the Batman presents a villain who seeks to conceal his identity, for obvious reasons, wearing little more than a mask and practical clothing. This new attire makes complete sense in the world of the Batman, where getting revenge means getting your clothes dirty along with your hands. Dano's Riddler has neither time nor use for flashy spectacle. His costume design is simple yet iconic, conveying everything the people of Gotham need to know about the man wreaking havoc on their city. He's enigmatic, he's practical, and he means business. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.